cancer, I received a shirt that had a heart on it and it said fighting, right? Well, I now take that word fighting and I use it as an army. What does that mean? I built my army around me. Who is going to support me during these times? And not just supporting me like making meals and things like that, but really support me by giving me joy.
Hello there. Oh, welcome, welcome. You have come to the Healing Family Grief YouTube channel. If you are watching this, and I'm really excited because this is kind of a new thing for me. And I have Debra Martin here, and this is part 2. Part 1 was talking about another book, but now we are going to be talking to her most recent book, I believe it is. Is that correct, Debra?
Correct, yes.
So what I would like to do is just read a little bit about the book, and then we are just going to dive right in and talk about the book, talk more about what Debra does. She's just the most amazing individual. So I can't wait to share this with everybody. So hang on, I'm going to get this going here. Well, I should say, welcome, Debra. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm so grateful to be here again. Our conversations, if we weren't on Zoom, we'd probably last all day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, so I'm going to dive in to introduce you formally. Okay. So first of all, Debra is a lab certified research medium. Her skills have been meticulously documented by the scientific community, most notably by Dr. Gary Schwartz. He is the author of the Afterlife Experiments, and Dr. Julie Beischel, director of the Windbridge Research Center. And so her abilities have been featured in numerous media outlets, and she just has so many amazing things going on. I'm going to have her contact information in our show notes below the video, but you can visit her at www.goldenmiracles.com. Now we're going to be talking about this book and probably so much more, but she has a very great message to share with all of us. And the book is Doctor's Faith and Courage. So I'm just going to read a little bit about the jacket, what we have in the back of the book. When Debra Martin, a renowned healer and medium, learned that she had cancer, she began a journey through one of the hardest challenges of her life. Debra shares how she faced the fears that rose out of the debilitating treatments, as we can all imagine, and the doubts that tried to overcome her as she fought for the health of her body and her soul. So she's going to talk more about this book here. So I'm just like super beyond super excited to talk to you. And I know I have some questions prepared, but I just feel like I just want to have a conversation with you.
Right.
Okay, how's that?
That's great.
So Debra, just, let's first start out about the story that's really behind the book.
Right. So when I started writing this book, I had cancer. I didn't know what my outcome was going to be. So I just trusted spirit. They told me, write this book. And now I look at the book and I don't want people to think it's just for cancer. It's for anything that you're dealing with, any health issue. In this book, I wrote every prayer that God gave me so that they can use it as well. So it holds a lot of healing and messages and how to cope through these difficult times, because when you're faced with something like that, no one thinks that they're going to hear those words, right? That you have something. And those words are so powerful because when somebody says that, you own it, right? I have. And I can remember even trying to say it to my children. I couldn't get the words out. It was like, and they're like, what, right? And because I wanted to be very careful that I wasn't owning it, right? but I knew I had to share it. So I ended up sharing it with very few limited people because I didn't want the message to be, did you hear what Debra Martin has? Because that holds so much energy. And so I kind of kept it to a very tight, small group that I felt, okay, this is really between me and God here. And that's when, writing the book became almost like a treasure, but it also became a goal. And I tell anyone that's going through a difficult time, set goals, even if it's like every week. I set goals, and those are what help me get through each week. Okay, I made another week. And so goals are really, really important, and they're powerful, but they're uplifting because wow, I did it, right? I did this. I made it through this. So that's why I wrote the book, but also to give people hope, right? It's called Doctor's Faith and Courage, because we are the courage. We have so much courage within us, more than what we know, and that's what I discovered. And doctors, when I was a healer, do I go to a doctor? What will my peers think? You're a healer. How could you go to a doctor? Well, I had no choice. I felt my children were saying, you have to do this. You're already, at stage 4. And I thought, well, let me ask God. And, God also helps these doctors do the abilities that they do. And so I learned that we need to use every tool in our toolbox. And it's not just the doctors. It's just not just my courage, but it's my faith too. And when I combine them all with the lessons that I teach you in this book, it's so profound and it's so undeniable.
Wow. I just, as a registered nurse by background, so I certainly have had all of that clinical training in Western medicine, and as a Qigong practitioner, which is the Eastern, healing ourselves and knowing that we were born a healer and marrying that up, and then bringing in that spiritual connection, and that it's like the trifecta, right? That
Qigong is bringing in spirit, yes.
Right, spirit is there. And I would imagine that some people, because you have had a great, what do I want to say? It's not really, I wouldn't call it a career, but what you have, you're a healer, and you've been a healer. And now all of a sudden you're faced with a very serious illness, stage 4 cancer. For anybody who doesn't understand how they stage it, means that it has spread. It's kind of wildfire inside our bodies, and it's going through the bloodstreams. It's doing all kinds of stuff. And I imagine that some people are thinking, how can this happen to you? You're a healer, you've got this great mediumship connection. How does this happen to you? So how would you respond to that, knowing what you know today?
It's interesting you say that, because I asked the same question.
Okay.
I went into prayer and said, really? I've been through so much, car accidents, near-death experiences. I've done everything that I felt God wanted me to do and to become who I am. So I said, I placed it in my prayers. What is this for? What lesson is this going to bring me? So instead of owning it, it's like, why are you here? Why are you here? Let me learn from you. Let me embrace you. And that's really important, because we learn to fight. We're going to fight that cancer. We're going to fight that illness. We're going to fight whatever it is. And I learned that fighting is resistance. And if we embrace our bodies, because our bodies are magnificent, if we embrace the cancer, which, I wasn't pleased that I had it, but if I embraced that cancer, I was embracing it with love. So imagine a child that comes to you, right, that's sick. They come in the home, I have a fever, and you go, I'm frustrated, just go to your room. Or do you just say, come here, let's get you some medicine, let's lay down, and you comfort and nurture them and you love them. And that's what you're doing to yourself. I would oftentimes just hold myself like this, and I would just say, I love you, Cancer. I love you because I know you're bringing me something very, very profound. I know that there's a reason here. And I walked through that, and it was very difficult. I'm going to take you a few steps back, because in January of 2019, I had a vision from Spirit that came to me that said, you need to write this book and you need to get it done now. Okay, why? Because this is your legacy. Now, that was my book, Proof of Miracles. So I started to get panicked. Like, well, why? But then again, I just kind of pushed it aside and going, why be panicked? There's no reason, right? Well, then in February, I was having this irritated hemorrhoid, right? And so I'm like, I'm just going to go to my doctors. Now, I had seen the doctor back in November for this same hemorrhoid, and they said, we don't like to take hemorrhoids out. It's not flared up, just leave it. Sorry about that. The dog's excited.
I love it. I love it.
So then in February, what happened is I woke up again and I heard, get it out now. And I heard, oh my gosh, they're talking about the hemorrhoid. So I made the doctor appointment right away. And when I went into the doctor's office, she looked at me like, what's your problem? Right? Like, why are you back here? I told you we're going to remove this. So I said, well, I want it removed. So she said, well, let me look at it. And she looked at it, it was flared up. And she's like, Debra, we don't like to take these out. You're going to be in a lot of pain. And I said, intuitively, I know I need to. Now, we fought for a good 10 minutes over this. I mean, even when I was bent over the table in a very vulnerable position, she's at the front leaning over the table saying, I don't want to do this. Are you sure? That's when I trusted Spirit, right? I knew my body better than that doctor. That's a huge message for all of us. Doctors are practicing. They know what their protocols are. They know what they need to do for you, but you know your body better. And I knew that this had to come out. So she removed it and she said, would you like to see it? I said, yeah. So I looked at it, didn't think too much, but it was really good that I did look at it. I thought, oh, it just looks kind of dead, like a lima bean, right? No life to it. And she questioned sending it in to get like biopsied. And she's like, no, we'll just do this. And 1 week later, I got a call when I was driving to get my hair done. And she's like, Debra, where are you? I said, driving. And she said, well, could you go back home? I said, no. And she said, could you pull over? And I said, sure. And she said, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. But this came back cancer, full of cancer. And people ask me, were you angry with her? I can't be, because she's human, right? She learned from this. She learned to listen to her patient. And I was learning too. Now, was I a little upset when she told me, oh, this is not going to be that big of a deal? And then when I saw my radiation doctor, he's like, this is going to be a huge deal. And I was like like hit right in the gut. Oh, are you kidding me? This is what I have to go through. And I had my friend there and she's like, she looked blank and she's like, what are we doing right now? What do we just hear? And it was going to be a 6 weeks continuous chemo and radiation straight every day. You could have the weekends off. So it was going to be like, you were really going to be hit hard. So that's the message I learned out of that is, please trust your own gut, trust your own body. Many times we leave the office listening to what they tell us to do, but in our guts telling us something different. And had I not listened to Spirit, right? Like, look.
I just so resonate with that. With so many people that I've come in contact with, is your body is so filled with wisdom. Mm-hmm. And so listen to the messages. And when something is not feeling right, you need to be your own advocate. And like you said, I come from the medical field. And so we all do our best. And we have the knowledge that we have. but that's it. You know, we only have so much knowledge, and then you have, like you said, protocols to go through and that type of thing. So this probably looked very benign.
Oh, it did. And I'm telling you, when you hear that word, my life changed in that moment. I now felt like I was actually going to be traveling to see my daughter. And so I remember just meeting with all the doctors and flying out that same day. Walking through the airport was so different than I ever felt before. I'm now wondering, will I ever do this again? Will I ever get to visit my grandkids again? Well, look at that family. They're so happy. Will I ever laugh again? Like, I just felt like I was in this bubble that I couldn't get out of.
Mm-hmm.
This heavy, heavy blanket. And it became all the unknowns, right? We have so many unknowns. And what was that causing me? Fear, right? So now I'm having all this fear, all these unknowns. Is that serving me? It was not. It was weighing me down. So what I had to do was I had to replace that fear with faith, knowing that no matter what, I was going to be okay either way.
It's funny, I coined the phrase, and I just have to share this. This was several years ago. Faith, you think of faith, hope, and love. And so I've coined some phrases, but for faith, it is just so apropos here, because for the word faith, for the acronym, it's finding awesome inspiration to heal. And that's what is that funny? Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Never heard that. I love that.
And that's just exactly what you're talking about, is just, I have to lean into faith, and faith is finding these ways to heal. And also when you were talking about, I needed to embrace, because right when you were saying the word embrace came into my mind, because we do want to fight, and you see all, and I'm not saying anything against the people that, are wearing their, I have done it for my friends with breast cancer and who have died with various kinds of cancer, and that we're going to fight for this, and I've done it. I've walked the walks. I've done all of these different things. And a few years ago, it's like, why are we creating a war out of this? It's embracing it. And that's what I learned through my Qigong training, and also my spiritual work, is exactly what you are sharing with all of us. Is it's embracing and finding out what's the beauty in it, and what are we learning from this, and who's learning from this. Sometimes we may go through the challenge, but like you said, your physician learned something so great that she will never, ever, I imagine, ever in her career, brush anything off and say, no, no, no. She's going to actually take it a step further and listen differently.
Yes. And, people are like, oh, do you want to go after her and all this stuff? It's like, no, she already learned it. And I felt very much at peace with that. And so then you talked about like embracing and walking through this. And I remember saying to God, like, I'm going to embrace this. And I'm going to have the courage to go through this. But I'm telling you, every step, there was a little frightened. I was scared, right? So I figured, okay, we still have to feel, right? We can't ignore that. So I still had to cry. I still had to go through my emotions. And I can remember seeing the radiation machine for the very first time. And when I saw that radiation machine, the first time I was scared. Like, what's this thing going to do to me, right? It's huge. And so the second day, and from that day forward, I decided, no, this was created for me. This is for me. So when I went in, became my God time. And I learned one day through the machine that cancer, I received a shirt that had a heart on it and it said fighting, right? Well, I now take that word fighting and I use it as an army. What does that mean? I built my army around me. Who is going to support me during these times? And not just supporting me like making meals and things like that, but really support me by giving me joy. Because if they can come in and bring laughter, that really helps feed the soul. So as I was in the machine, I started thinking, okay, we're going to build this army, and I actually got the name of the publishing. It was going to be Army for Love. And that's what it's all about. You're building your army for love. And so the heart and the fighting, I kind of put it together now as that's your army and that's your love. And so I kind of tweaked it a little bit.
I like that. An army of angels, actually. That's what I'm seeing is like you're building an army. It's not to fight and hurt or harm. It is a fight to, it's surrounding yourself to lift
love.
You up. It's
Yeah.
love. It's
all
love.
love. And I can tell you, I still did healing sessions until I wasn't able to. But during that process, I learned how my body is really just an instrument, and how I was able to remove myself and still allow my body for God to use it for healings. And it was just amazing. I felt so much better being in that, healing room with that energy, and the connection seemed so pure. And I think it's because what happens is I no longer was going to worry. Okay, when I finished all the treatments, and now you're going back to work, and now you're getting your life back, all of this, the humanness starts coming out, and we do have our daily worries during the day. We do have things that we have to get done. And I noticed, wow, what a change. When I was over there, I was really in this peaceful state. And I'm not saying it wasn't hard, right? I went through a lot of hard days, but I really recognized my connection there as so profound. And I think it's just because I had no worry. And that was another lesson, is why worry? Because it's not going to serve us, right? So there were so many lessons, and I write them all in the book. I mean, I could go on and on, but I did bless my medicine. I blessed the machine. I blessed the cancer. I had to take 18 cancer pills a day, and I would find a really pretty cup, and I would put 2 in at a time, and I would thank it. Thank you. Thank you. I can remember the first time going, can I say these words, right? Because I really sat down and asked God, what should I say? What is going to be work for this? And so I wrote those words in the book for you to use as well, others. And so when I held that there, I was like, to say thank you to these pills and then digest them knowing what they're going to do, they became easier and easier because I was embracing them. Mm-hmm. And do you know that I knew when I was done with those pills, I ended up being done before the treatment was over. And I said, my body can't take this anymore. I know my body's had enough. And the doctors were like, no, we have to finish this. And so they would do blood tests, right, to make sure your platelet counts and everything. And that was like on a Friday. By Monday, when my platelet count came in and I took it that day, they're like, oh, you can't take a medicine anymore. And so I knew Spirit was still, had my back, was working through me, and I was still my advocate of what I was feeling. And, our family, they want you to fight, right? They don't want to lose you. You have to do this. You have to do this. There's a funny chapter in this book. I was told by my doctors not to eat any carbs, none. So there comes to a point where your body just wants something that will be sustainable, that will be thick to hold everything in, because you're just losing it all. So there's a chapter called I Want My Bagel. And I can remember laying in bed going, how am I going to present this to my son that I want a bagel today? And I said, okay, so I'm going to start with, I want an egg. Okay. And then I thought that it would be really nice, maybe a piece of cheese and some fruit, some blueberries, but I would really like my egg on top of a bagel. And I texted that, like he's in the other room, I'm texting that. And I come out and he's like, Mom, we need to have a talk. And I know he was doing it out of love. And he even called my other son, and they're talking to me like they're my parent, right? You can do this for us. You do not eat the bagel. And I'm crying. I just want the bagel. I don't want these eggs, right? And so I can remember I was going to email my doctor. She'll listen to me, right? So email her and say, this is what's happening. I don't know what you suggest. So that following Monday, we were being seen by the doctor, and I can remember sitting with my son, and she's like, now, Deborah, how's your eating going? I said, this carb thing is really hard. I've had enough. My body just can't hold anything in. I need something substantial. And she goes, well, you know, if you ever feel like you want a bagel, my son's face is looking at me. And I'm like, so when we left, she's like, you know, just eat what you can at this point, right? So I said to my son, well, can you tell the family that? He's like, no, I still don't believe that. And he's a doctor himself in environmental science, but he works with Johns Hopkins. So he's around a lot of people that, you know, he was getting advice and said, yeah, try not to take any sugar in because sugar does feed cancer. And I just knew again, you don't know my body. I was like yelling at my kids, you don't know this. I need this. And they're like, no, you don't. I mean, down to the last infusion, my other son was here. And he's like, you have to have that last infusion. And I said, I can't. If I have that last infusion, I'll die. I really felt Spirit was telling me. So I'm crying. I can't have that last infusion. And he's like, Mom, you have to. You made it this far. Why wouldn't you do the last one? So I said, well, we get the blood test today and we'll just put it in God's hands and see what happens, right? So I go to the radiation treatment, and then the doctor calls and we're in the car after the radiation, and she's like, well, Deborah, we can't do this last infusion. It would be really, really unhealthy for you. Like, this would be scary. So now my son's angry. Well, why would you have that last infusion for her? And so if she doesn't take that last infusion, even though you're saying this is protocol, then what is my mom's chances? She's not going to survive this. Like, he's mad. And I'm like, you need to just trust the process. And that's part of it too. We have to kind of trust the process and how we're feeling and what we're going through each stage and step of the way. But it was quite the journey. And I write some of the hardships, the funny things, things that were like, what family expects, you know, and just laugh at it.
And well, thankfully you're here to laugh about it, and you taught your children some really valuable lessons. Like, you know, sometimes it's not always following the protocol, it's listening to ourselves, you know, and I just advocacy keeps coming through my head, you know, it's that being the advocate. And even with our family and our friends, and I'm thinking, you know, when I'm working with my grief clients, is, you know, being your own advocate and knowing that everybody means well. They love you so much. But if it doesn't resonate for you to do that or do this, it's okay to just say, I love you, but this is the path I'm going to go down. Trust me, you know, trust me.
And you know, everybody's going to go through it differently. And so that's what the doctors have to follow the protocol, right?
Yep.
Because they don't know at this stage, this is what could happen. And then they watch you, and it's really you speaking to them. How do you feel? And so I can remember walking into my radiation doctor, and I could barely walk in. I mean, the nurses had to hold my arms to walk me in. And I can remember sitting there going, I'm not having a good day. This is what I love about this doctor. He walked in and he's like, but you are having a great day. And I'm like, he'd have a smile on his face. I'm like, I am, you know, I'm crying. And he's like, yes, because I've seen patients that have been where you are, and you're doing fantastic. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing fantastic. And it was just that verbiage that changed my mental state. And so he was such a great role model to me. My doctors are, and what's interesting is my son's name is Stephen and my daughter's name is Stephanie, and my radiation doctor was Stephen and my chemo doctor was Stephanie. Wow. So I knew that when I first met them, like, oh, you guys, Spirit, you're really, really funny. Like, could you tell me that I'm not in, you know, the right space? I can tell you though, when I first met my radiation doctor, he's like, so Debra, tell me a little bit about you. what do you do for a living? I was like, oh, talk about having to share your vulnerabilities. So I did. And he just said, Deborah, that I believe that. I believe you're still a healer, but your body, you're human. And as you go through life, no matter if you're a healer or not, you're going to deal with things in life that you're going to have to face. And I knew right then, this guy gets it, right? And so, yeah.
Well, and I think, as I think about everything that goes on in our life, for us to be really available and to hold the space for the people that we work with, through healing and holding them and helping them to, because they're the ones that are really taking on and saying, I'm going to do the healing. It's like you're that conduit, right, between God and them to help this process. But
my healings were so profound. Like I'm telling you, like the feedback was like, wow. And so in the book, my assistant Valerie writes a chapter on what she witnessed from behind the scenes and just seeing, wow, look at how powerful our bodies really are. And it showed me how much courage we really do have inside of us.
Absolutely, yeah. And that when you're talking about the verbiage and that type of thing, we all know that we are mostly made of water. We also know that there's studies out there that talks about the impact of words with water. Dr. Emoto, and he did all, the messages with water and just clearly when we're giving ourselves those positive messages and when others around us are giving us those positive messages and thinking those positive messages and having that positive energy just surrounds us, our body's going to respond. It's going to say yes, because our bodies love us and want to embrace all those positive things of joy and health and happiness and courage and all the stuff that we're made of, right?
Right. In fact, one of the tools that I learned was joy. Right? We are all joy. We have joy within us. But what could bring me joy? Now, I got to the point where, I couldn't smell food. I couldn't even have anybody cook in the house. So my neighbor would make the food for us and bring it. And still, sometimes I couldn't. So I was like, wow, I saw the joy in that, right? Look at what someone's going to do for me. I can remember not being able to even go to the grocery store. I felt like I was 100 years old. I had to hang on to a cart and I thought, oh, I could do this. And I realized I couldn't. So where was the joy in that? The joy was, I will eventually, but I tried it, right? I could try it. And then joy, I can remember the joy of going, I can do a little laundry again, right? Wow, the little things that we take for granted. And so I started to think, okay, well, we need to start, all of us need to start looking at the joy in each day, even when we're having a terrible day. We'll find that one piece of joy because that changes that day around, right? And so now I walk with the attitude of gratitude. That's my foundation. And I think if we can all have that, that's that attitude we're talking about, that affirmations and how we feel about ourselves and how life is. I mean, the world is really kind of chaotic right now, but we have to say, but we are still at peace, right? And we are still at joy. And so no matter what you're going through, find that piece of joy.
Absolutely. And I just, when you talk about it, and the world around us can feel chaotic and even in our own families or whatever, in our jobs. But if we just can drop that little droplet of joy in that water, the ripple effect just starts bringing in to everybody else into that, because it's just energy to get energy, right?
Yes, it's that energy and light. So when I was writing the book, it was coming to the end, right? And I had to go get my PET scan. So how am I going to feel? How am I going to embrace this? Was I going to be nervous? What was I going to do? And I thought, no, I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that whatever outcome it is what God wants this to be. But I felt such at peace during the whole process of like loving my cancer, and I'll tell you what I learned from it and what it gave to me so that I could say goodbye to it. But I remember at the PET scan sitting there, and they're going to put the dye in your arm, and the gentleman goes, "So Deborah, your name's Debra Martin?" I said, "Yes." "And you had anal cancer?" And I go, "I love you." And he's like, "What did I just say?" And I'm like beaming. I'm just so beaming. And he's like, "I said, you said had. You just gave me a message. Yes, yes, yes." So I can remember getting onto the scanner, and every time I would go for a PET scan, they would put me on a white blanket. And even when I had my radiation treatments, I would tell the nurses, "This is God's white light on me. He's surrounding me and holding me right now." And they loved it. They actually cried the last day going, "Oh, we're going to miss putting this blanket on you," right? So I can remember going in there, but he placed it on different this time. He placed one this way, and then he rolled one around my head like a halo. And then he had my hands up. So I had my hands up, and I'm like, "Okay, God, I just want to feel this. I want to feel you. This is a beautiful thing. This isn't, we are going to have victory here and be able to tell everybody. So let's prove it to the world," right? That's my way I was thinking, because I already heard the word had. So now I go in there, and I'm sitting in there really peaceful, quiet, and I feel somebody touch this arm and this arm up here, and all of a sudden it's my parents. And I could cry right now because they go, "We've been by your side the entire time. We've never left you. We love you." And it was such a beautiful, profound experience. And then the last time you're coming out of that machine, my hands are up like this, right? So I'm like, "Victory, victory, victory." And so I go home, and I'm feeling kind of positive about that. But Valerie, I call her and tell her my experience, right? And she goes, "Deborah, I was in meditation with you, and your parents showed me that they were there with you. That one was on your left and one was on your right." And I go, "You were right." And so she validated that to me, and it just made it even more profound. So that part of the journey just became like, aha. And then my doctor didn't wait till I came in the office. He called me and left me a message. I had gone to the bathroom, and I see the message, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, there's a message here. Is it to be called? What am I going to do?" And so I'm like, "All right, brace yourself. God, these are the words I'm going to hear." And you don't know what you're going to hear. So I press the recording, and I hear his words going, "Well, I didn't want you to wait, until you had to see, come see me, because I know that you would hold a lot of, questions unknown, but you're cancer free." And I just was like, I danced.
Oh my gosh.
I danced in my house. I was like, "Yay!" Like thanking spirit, thanking God. And I went back into prayer, and I thanked the cancer. I said, "You gave so much to me." And I said, there's two things I learned. I learned to see the beauty in the beast. Okay? And what was that? I do healings for people all over the world. I never knew what these people went through. I was always looking from the door in, looking through the door, looking through the glass. Now I'm on that same side. I know what they're going through. So my empathy, my compassion just blew up. And I can remember at the beginning saying, "Well, I have compassion. Why do I need to go through this?" I had no idea, none. And so I said, "Thank you, cancer, for this lesson. I now can help on such a deeper level to those people that I'm relating to," right? The empathy, the compassion, the feeling of me wanting to hold their hand, just like God was holding mine. And I am telling you, that was such a beautiful meaning message, that I saw the beauty in the beast that was in me. And I said goodbye to it. And to this day, I just had learned, because now it's been over a year, 2 years in February of next year. And they said, you're done. This will probably never come back.
Wow.
So it was here to teach me. It was here for a reason. I didn't know that, but always ask yourself that question. What are you here to teach me? What are you here for? And some of us, there's many people that will still transition. Mm-hmm. But what did they get from that? Maybe more quality time? I mean, there is always a blessing in everything. And I know it's hard to see that. And I'm thinking when I heard it, what's the blessing here? Look what I have to go through. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I use the tools of having goals. I even show the goals. I write them all down for everyone in the book, and the prayers and the gratefulness. And yes, I do get raw and say, I'm not perfect. I'm having an awful, awful day. Because then, like, this isn't just written to be, foo-foo it. This is real stuff. And I take it serious. I take my healing serious. I take every patient or client that comes to me. And it touched me to my core.
Well, number one, I have to tell you that you were talking about this white blanket, but what's interesting, and I don't know if people will see it when they're watching the video, but I'm listening and looking at you, and you have this beautiful white aura that's been covering you the whole time that we've been on this conversation. So I can see it. I don't know if it'll show up on the video, but then you started talking about the white blanket and it just started expanding. Wow. Over your head and your shoulders, and it was like, oh, this is just like so amazing. I mean, I'm getting flushed here just thinking about it. And that's, I think, so important, is that oftentimes we have to go through those challenges in order to really understand, to walk in someone's shoes, to really have that total understanding. And if you had not, we would not have this beautiful book.
Thank you.
With prayers, tools to say here. And I'm just thinking, man, I'm going to get a bunch of copies of this, because anytime I know that someone that I love and care for is going through a challenge such as yours, and like you said, it's not just cancer.
No.
Any kind of, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical challenge. It could be a emotional, psychological, spiritual challenge that's that deep, that all of these things that all intersects. And so if you had not done that and gone through the depths and risen like a beautiful phoenix out of the fires, and you are the beauty within the beast, I mean, right? The beast was within you, and your beauty just was like, okay, I'm going to love you.
It, right.
I'm going to love you. I'm going to love you. And together, now the whole movie of Beauty and the Beast is coming to me now. Right. It's like, I'm going to love you. And, you just see how beautiful and what's really underneath the beast.
It's so true. And I think if we can all look at that, right? What is it bringing to us, and what message is it giving to us? And just see it on a whole different level. It can give you peace. And I didn't know until the end, right? I mean, I wasn't seeing the beauty. I was going through all of the hardships.
Yeah.
So, but I do trust that there are blessings in everything. I do write on the back of the book, I don't have it, you have it, but it says, if you need this book, if you would like this book, it kind of gives bullet points of why you would read this.
Yeah.
And the real message is that love heals, right? And we are all one, we are all love, so we should spread that love. And that to never lose hope, because when we start to lose hope, that's when we give up, and allow that light within us, God's light within us, to just give us that strength, that courage, that we have more. Like I said, I had more than I ever knew I had. And through this experience, God molded me into the healer that I am today, right? So I'm a better healer. That's just how I have to say it. It really has made me that. So I have to thank it. And that's the other thing is gratitude. Thank it. Always give thanks. Thanks for everything. I thank the machine. I thank the doctors. I thank the pills that I was taking. I thanked, it was just always giving gratitude for everything. I thank you that I made it to the bathroom. You know, it's like that. Seriously. And or I'm thankful that, other people have it so much worse. And that's kind of what I would think too. Like, okay, I'm not the only one here. And other people are even going through more difficult situations than I am. And so that's the other thing I don't want to take away from anyone is that my hardship isn't any bigger than someone else's. It's just that I learn from it and what I'm trying to share with others so that they too can apply these and not lose hope.
That is so beautiful. So hope, can I share you what I made up for hope?
Yes, these tweetable moments we have.
These tweetable moments, honoring our purpose every day. Wow. So just being in hope, that's what it is, about honoring our purpose and having that hope to do that. Just honoring our purpose. And your purpose is here to help people heal in so many different ways, to connect with their loved ones. We haven't even talked about, your mediumship capabilities, except what I read in the bio. But there's just so many things that's what you're here for. And that was honoring your purpose. That hope brought you, because it could have been very different. And the only other thing that I wanted to make mention is we talked about, yes, some people will transition. But to me, I tell people healing occurs on many, many different levels.
So many. Yeah. And that's what I wrote in Proof of Miracles. So that was the book that I had to hurry and get out, right?
Yep.
So I did get that out. And I just did a revision because I was such in a hurry to get it out that I didn't even revise it. And so I finally did that. But it's about connecting with our loved ones, right? And we all have that ability, but go back to healing. I believe we all have that ability to heal too. It's within us. And sometimes we need, the doctors to help us. Sometimes we need another person to help get to those root issues or that little bit of extra energy because we don't have it to heal. And that's what I'm here for, is to be that instrument for you and allow God to use me to give you what you need. And healing is on all levels, emotional, physical, and spiritual. It's not just on one. I mean, it's limitless, really. I mean, so many people come, well, can this be healed? It's like, well, with God, anything is possible, right? But then again, some of my strong sessions, God will tell me, like, this isn't about you, right? And then my intention is for miracles for everybody. And then that person passes. And like you say, well, what was the gift there? What did they receive from that healing? And it could be a message. It could be the gift of time. It could be peace. It could be love. It could be having the divine connection. I received an email from somebody that said, I didn't realize the connection I was receiving that you were giving me now with the relationship with God, that in itself was priceless. So it's a divine connection because, like I said, I am just the vessel, right? I have to remove my humanness and allow it to be orchestrated. And I did that with my cancer. I tried to remove my humanness from it and just allow my body to heal.
Oh, this has just been, I get tingles all over when I talk to you. It's just, the energy is just so beautiful. You truly are the real deal. You are absolutely an angel on this earth, and you're human. And that's
human.
You're human too. So, when someone doesn't give you a bagel, you might want to have a temper tantrum. That's okay. Right. We're all human, and the emotions, like you said, the anger and the fear and all that, and we need to be able to feel our feels.
Yes, it's important.
Yeah. So
you have to push them away. That's the one thing with healing is we say feel. You have to feel to heal. So I had to feel these emotions. I had to walk through them. I had to embrace them. But then somebody shared this with me. I thought it was really, really cute. they said they were grieving. And they said, I know I have to feel, and I know I have to grieve, right? But I then decided, well, I'm going to allow it to come in the door. It can be here for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, I say goodbye. So she allowed it, but she didn't allow it to take over.
Yep.
And that's what we need to remember. Like, there's, especially with grieving, you know that there is no time, right? There is no limit. It's all individual. But if you can embrace it and give it the time it needs, give yourself the time it needs, but also give yourself that time to nurture and love yourself, because it is all about love.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. You're preaching to the choir, sister. You're preaching to the choir.
I feel like, wait a minute, I should be saying that. You should be.
No, this is what it's all about. It's just like we are so symbiotic that way. And I am just so grateful that we got connected through a mutual friend, that I've been able to get to know you more. I know that our paths will always stay intersected throughout probably the rest of our lives and the paths that we have here. That's what I feel. So I just want everybody to know how to reach you. Just give it to it. I'm going to have it in the show notes, but and one last tidbit that you would like to end with, that you would like to share with the audience.
Well, you mentioned it. You said, you and I are connected. And I believe we are all connected, and we are all one. And if we can all put out, love for each other and love for ourselves, I think the world will feel that energy. And so that's what we're here to do, is to love. Nothing else matters. So remember that. Love yourself. Tell yourself you love yourself, and just spread the love.
Beautiful. So I'll have all of Debra's contact information. And if you like what you're hearing here, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Debra's channel, because I'll have that on there. Please just reach out to her and, find her on social media, see what's going on with her, because it's amazing stuff. She's got lots of books. She's a wealth of knowledge. And when you start reading these books and what people, are sharing their stories about their work with Debra, it's like, holy smokes, it's just absolutely amazing. So miracles occur daily. Just know that miracles occur daily. And as soon as we lift our hearts and open our hearts to that, that's when it just allows it to come in. So I just want to thank you so much, Debra. I am just so appreciative. I'm so honored that you took the time here to be with me. I'm excited that, I'm getting this YouTube channel off the ground, and you're kind of you're my lifting it up and starting it out with me. So I really appreciate that.
I'm so honored. I'm so honored. And you know what? Speaking with you is effortless. It's fun. And, to be able to share my story, I've only shared it one other time. So this is huge for me. And I thank you with so much gratitude and love to you for doing this. And for anybody else that wants to reach out to me, they can go to my website at www.goldenmiracles.com. And I look forward to hearing from what people think about the book.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. And peace and love to all of you. Hi there. Thank you for stopping by our Healing Family Grief channel, where grief can transform into peace, purpose, and even joy. That is the intention. So as host of the Healing Family Grief channel, my goal is to provide insight, inspiration, and hope for people who are grieving a deep loss, or for the people who want to provide support for those who are struggling on their grief journey. If you like what you hear, please like us, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel to hear more. Also, feel free to share any episodes that you feel could be helpful to someone you know. For more information about the Confident Grief Coach School, or to find a grief coach, or perhaps to order one of my free ebooks, please check out our website at www.healingfamilygrief.com.